PlayStation 5 continues to remain in relative obscurity as far as information goes. There's just not much we know about Sony's next generation console, so people are wondering, how is it going to be revealed? Is it going to be shown at E3 like PlayStation 4 was back in 2013, or is Sony going to host their own event and do it that way? Well, it would seem as though we have an answer, judging by the fact that it's been made official that Sony is once again skipping E3 in 2020. They will not be attending the event, which means they'll definitely be hosting their own event to promote and unveil and really do a blowout for PlayStation 5. The following information sort of trickled in throughout the day. It all began with a report from Games Radar, who in an article published a few hours ago talked about how Michael Pachter, an industry insider, claimed, quote, "As far as I know, Sony, don't plan to attend E3 2020, and this was something Pachter claimed in an interview with outlet VGC. In parallel, we began to see other industry insiders start to tweet and hint that PlayStation 5 will probably not be at E3. So Jason Schreier had the following to say about the matter in a tweet published on January 13th, 2020 at 8 a.m. E3 is the worst shape it's ever been. Last year it was half empty, and that was before they doxed thousands of attending journalists. Oh yeah, that happened. So Sony skipping again would make total sense. I'd expect them to announce their own big PS5 events instead. And then right after that, we've got Daniel Ahmad, who is also an industry insider. He retweeted Jason Schreier's tweet and also said, "Should hear more about this today." Fast forward to more recently, a couple minutes ago, in fact, as of the recording of this video, and we've got games industry confirming these rumors to be indeed true. So the headline reads, PlayStation will not participate in E3 2020. Games industry managed to reach out to Sony about this, and Sony actually responded and provided some of their reasoning as to why they made this decision. So the article reads as follows: PlayStation will miss E3 for a second year in a row. The firm told Games Industry Biz that it does not feel the vision for the event is right for what it has planned for this year. Instead, it will attend hundreds of consumer events to showcase upcoming games for PS4 and PS5. Here's a quote from a Sony spokesperson. After a thorough evaluation, SIE has decided not to participate in E3 2020. We have great respect for the ESA as an organization. I certainly don't, for reasons that many of you will probably know about. But we do not feel the vision of E3 2020 is the right venue for what we are focused on this year. We will build upon our global event strategy in 2020 by participating in hundreds of consumer events across the globe. Our focus is on making sure fans feel part of the PlayStation family and have access to play their favorite content. We have a fantastic lineup of titles coming to PlayStation 4, and with the upcoming launch of PlayStation 5, we are truly looking forward to a year of celebration with our fans. Now, one has to wonder what Sony exactly means when they say that the vision of E3 2020 doesn't fall in line with what they have in mind with the kinds of announcements they want to make. I'm assuming that part of it might have to do with this E3 2020 pitch that was also reported by Games Industry back in September 2019. Apparently, the ESA has proposed that the event lean more towards, quote, celebrities, consumers, and influencers, and the relevant excerpt in this article, further contextualizing what is being reported here, reads, in the ESA's proposal, marketing activations involving celebrities and influencers would become a key feature of the E3 show floor. The pitch deck included an example of the Los Angeles Lakers playing a basketball video game in front of fans and mentioned official relationships with talent agencies like CAA and UTA. Now, keep in mind that this is a pitch, so we don't know how much of this was approved, but it certainly seems as though the ESA is placing the wrong emphasis for a gaming event. They are trying to emphasize influencers and celebrities rather than the games themselves. That's what people tune in for, and it's like the games are secondary compared to all this other extraneous stuff. So maybe this has something to do with Sony being like, nah, this isn't the event for us. That's just one possibility though. Maybe there are other reasons that we don't know about. Games industry does note in this article that there are some creative differences among publishers when it comes to what they want E3 to be. So this bit right here reads, some publishers such as EA and Sony want to see E3 become a fan celebration of games, whereas others would rather the event remained an industry-focused affair. So that might provide further insight as to what Sony might mean when they say that the vision of E3 2020 doesn't align with their own endeavors. And also, after news of all of this broke, Jason Schreier added additional context with the following tweet. One juicy tidbit I heard last year was that Sony's main reason for skipping E3 was disagreement, tension, conflict with the ESA, which is likely the driving factor here as well. Interesting. I'm wondering what kind of tension there is between them, what that disagreement is about. Is it specifically about E3 or other aspects? I don't know. This is kind of vague, but there's just something going on between these two organizations. It should be noted that E3 slowly but surely is becoming more and more irrelevant as the years go by, as streaming becomes a bigger and bigger platform. Nintendo sort of saw this coming back when they did Nintendo Direct. People were skeptical when Nintendo said, yeah, we're not doing a press conference at E3 this year, we're doing this live stream format. But over the years, more and more companies are following suit with what Nintendo is doing there because they realize that you can reach a wide audience by doing these kinds of direct live streams, speaking directly to the audience. We just live in a different time where information can spread much faster, and the Sony and PlayStation brand are big enough that when they do announce an event, even if it is outside of E3, people will tune in and flock to it, especially with anticipation being so high for PlayStation 5. And this is something that Sony also hinted at when they provided a statement about why they're not attending E3 2019 when that was announced last year, shocking a lot of people because Sony had attended every E3 up until 2019. So this is what Sony told Game Informer back in November 2018 when they officially announced they would not be attending E3 2019. The quote reads, as the industry evolves, Sony Interactive Entertainment continues to look for inventive opportunities to engage the community. PlayStation fans mean the world to us, and we always want to innovate, think differently, and experiment with new ways to delight gamers. As a result, we have decided not to participate in E3 2019. We're exploring new and familiar ways to engage our community in 2019 and can't wait to share our plans with you. So with Sony realizing that they can really do things their own way, host their own events, and be just as efficient with marketing their products, if not more so, and sort of not seeing eye to eye with the vision of E3 2020, whatever that might mean. Yeah, they're just kind of going off the cuff, and who's to say if they'll ever return to E3? They seem to be content not participating at that event anymore. And there's been plenty of signs that Sony's been shifting in this direction, with them hosting their PlayStation Experience events, which garner a huge audience, and even with a game like Last of Us Part 2, they hosted an entire event dedicated to that game, where media outlets got to attend and get their hands on the game. They released a new trailer for that title with, Joel in there, and that got a lot of buzz, and they've been able to do just fine by going at their own pace in terms of gaming events and gaming marketing. The prominence of live streaming also means that it's more convenient for journalists and media outlets to do coverage from the comfort of their office. This is something that was highlighted in this article by news outlet Forbes, in which they talked about how they wouldn't blame Sony if they skipped E3 2020. This is an excerpt that I agree with. It reads right here, plenty of journalists choose to sit in their hotel rooms and cover the live stream instead of actually attending, taking advantage of better internet connectivity, no visibility problems, easily accessible outlets, and the ability to coordinate with teammates. The show itself yields occasionally useful demos and interviews alongside a ton of trailers that will be on YouTube in moments anyways. Many of the biggest companies have moved out of the convention center by this point. From what I hear, last year's conference felt sparsely attended and sort of depressing by the end of the week. This is relying on friends because I left early. This is something that I can attest to. I've personally never attended an E3 press conference because I can do better coverage right here from home, in my office, in my studio, And I can also watch the conferences with the community, which is really cool. And it's just, I don't know, I find it to be a more comfortable, a more engaging way to do coverage on these kinds of events. And Sony also probably seems to recognize that element of it as well. And then this year in particular, something that's bound to drive away a lot of attendees, a lot of media outlets and journalists and influencers and whatnot, is the lack of security when it comes to how the ESA and the organizers of E3 managed data. Recall that last year, E3 doxed thousands of journalists and media outlets when they left this Excel document, I think, of all the people who submitted their personal information to get their badge on the website for anyone to download. The ESA made it abundantly clear that they cannot be trusted with personal information, and a lot of journalists are bound to stay away from this event after that whole fiasco, and that might give companies like Sony further reason to distance themselves away from E3 when something this incompetent on ESA's part can happen. So yeah, just all around, it makes perfect sense that Sony is skipping E3 2020, given that the event is less important than ever when it comes to companies marketing their products and games. I'm not gonna lie, there's a part of me that's a little sad to see E3 sort of decline in relevancy, because this was sort of the Super Bowl of video games, right? This is the one event everyone tuned into and everyone gathered together, whether it was on-site or online. And there was just this communal sense to it, and the few times that I have attended E3, I got to meet some cool people, see some cool things, but it also makes sense to see these companies move away from an event that has proven to be less and less effective over the years. But yeah, it's official, folks. No PlayStation at E3 2020. It'll be interesting to see what Sony has in store for us this year, what kinds of events they intend to host, how they intend to announce PlayStation 5, and whether it's all going to end up paying off. Anyway, I've said all there is to say on the matter. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on PlayStation officially skipping E3 2020 and what you're hoping from the PlayStation brand as we build up to the announcement of PlayStation 5 and eventually the launch of next gen, the beginning of next gen. So drop a comment below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.